And I prayed before this event for guidance. And I will pray after this event. And I ask you to pray for me and as you give your other prayers as well. And I believe the theme of the miracle of the fishes and the loaves is very, very appropriate because something's got to happen.
Yes.
The laws and the regulations have been twisted.
Yes.
They've been taken over. They're not working for us. They're not working for you who live here. And yes, you're right, I don't live here, and that industry group you're referring to just a minute ago, the industry makes, I don't know the group, but I know groups like that everywhere. They have a lot of money, and they have very skillful public relations people, and they put out a message before this event warning you to beware of outside agitators. But you know, I've run into a lot of inside agitators. I think you're the ones they ought to be worried about. And speaking of outside agitators, where is Formosa? Is it from Donaldsonville? Is ExxonMobil, are they right behind the grapevine? Shell Oil, are they from here? Are they outside agitators? They're outside polluters. They're the ones that took the sportsman's paradise and turned it into Cancer Alley. So don't tell me about outside agitators, outside poisoners and polluters. Well, if an appropriate song comes to you. But we're gathered here on the 20th anniversary of Katrina. It'll be on Friday, of course. I'll tell you a quick story. I was heading to New Orleans on August 29th, 2005, to give a speech on climate change to a gathering of all 50 state insurance commissioners who had planned a meeting in New Orleans. Well, first of all, because they wanted to go to New Orleans, but seriously, they had planned a meeting to talk about the implications for the insurance industry and for insurance regulation of the mounting climate crisis. And I was the featured speaker. And of course it was canceled because of climate change, because of the hurricane hitting. And they never gathered again, to my knowledge, to take it up, but that's another story. When that hurricane made landfall, I was in Nashville watching it. 1,392 people killed, 652 missing, most all of them from Louisiana. The costliest hurricane in American history, tied with Harvey. The two of them are the costliest ones. And yeah, there were infrastructure failures, for sure, and that contributed to it. And the city learned a lot. But look at, Rita came just 6 weeks later. Ida came not too many years ago, ripped the roof off your house, Sharon. Now the hurricanes are getting much stronger as they predicted. All of these things that are going on today, the big downpours and floods, the droughts and the fires, today, third year in a row, the biggest fires in the history of Canada burning. Today, the biggest fire in the history of France. 14 fires in Spain. Fires in Greece and Turkey, and I could go around the world and give you similar examples. Every night on the TV news, like a nature hike through the book of Revelation. I used to use examples from 10 years ago and 20 years ago. Now I say yesterday, last night, last week. And it's getting much worse. And what causes it is the exact same activity that is causing the disease burden here in Cancer Alley. These petrochemicals plastics, 75% of petrochemicals are plastics. They're made by burning the same fossil fuels that puts that heat-trapping gas up into the sky. When I say the sky, the lowest part of the sky is where that thin, we see blue on a clear day. And the astronauts up in space, when they are in that space station, they look head on at the horizon. It's just a thin blue line, 6 miles thick. You could walk it in an hour. And that's what we're using as an open sewer for all of the heat-trapping gases. And they add up. What goes up must come down, but it doesn't come down very fast. Each molecule stays there about 100 years, and it mounts up. And today, August 27th, that pollution trapped as much extra heat in the Earth's system as would be released by the explosion of 750,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs exploding on the Earth. Every single day, 750,000 Hiroshima bombs. That's how much energy. That's why the oceans are getting so hot, making the hurricanes so much stronger. That's why last year was the hottest year ever measured. That's why the hottest 10 years ever measured have been the last 10 years. That's why there's more of these atmospheric rivers that flood the sky with so much moisture that when the storms happen, it just comes down all at once. Houston had, during Harvey, had 5 feet of rain. 5 feet of rain. Well, that never used to happen. Last month, the United States had 12 once-in-a-thousand-year events in 3 days. Now, at what point do we begin to say, we need to do something about this? And you see, that's exactly the same feeling that we have. And Mr. Bradley said, at what point, when you see your neighbors dying of cancer one right after another, when you see so many different family members, at what point do you say, we got to do something? Well, of course, you cross that point. But now the doing is what lies ahead. Let me show you a few pictures. I promised I would. This is Cancer Alley. From Baton Rouge to New Orleans and continuing on down south. One of the most heavily polluted areas of the United States, and this part of it is the most heavily polluted, because in the 7 Cancer Alley parishes, more than 200 facilities emit this toxic soup into the air and into people's lungs. Here's a tour of all the petrochemical facilities on either side of the river in these parishes. And the jobs are mostly going to people outside of these parishes, by the way. And so I'm going to show you some pictures of where the pollution goes. And Climate Reality Project works with a group called Climate Trace, which uses satellite monitoring. And we collect data constantly from 300 satellites orbiting the Earth every hour. Well, they don't orbit every hour, but we collect the data every hour. And from 30,000 other sensors. Now, what you're seeing here, the darker the red there, that's the more the concentration of pollution over the course of 1 year. But what I'm going to show you next is something new. And we're going to start making this available. It'll take some time to do it on a daily basis. But you know, there's been discussion of community monitoring. And of course, the oil and gas companies got a law passed saying it's illegal to use a monitor to publicize any information from a monitor that they didn't sign off with the state on, unless the news is good. If it's good, you have an exemption from the law. And by the way, you can say, nobody, this family member does not have cancer. You're okay to say that. You're okay. Anyway, what I'm going to show you now is the flow of the pollution. It's a representative day, but eventually we're going to have them every day. And I've color-coded the areas on the ground that are majority black, just for points of reference, because the work of that Beverly Wright and Bob Bullard have done has to be front and center.
Right.
You know, I just got a text from a state representative in Memphis who fought a pipeline. Corinne and I went down to help them stop a pipeline in southwest Memphis, 97% black community, and they said, "Why are you putting this pipeline right through our community?" And the company spokesman said, "Well, I guess we thought this would be the path of least resistance." He wished later that he hadn't said that. But what he said there is an embodiment of what Bob and Beverly have been teaching us. Those in our country who have been deprived by historical tragedies and long compounding experiences, deprived of sufficient political power and economic power to protect themselves, and to say, "No, not here. We don't want your poison in our children's lungs." Those who have been deprived of the same ability to say that with as much wealth and power and political alliances are the ones that are usually more victimized. Here's an example. I'll start with one up in, well, first of all, let me say overall, this particulate pollution is, according to the latest data that's available, was published a year ago in The Lancet, this is the leading contributor to the global disease burden. Now, here the green areas are majority black. This is Baton Rouge. The red is where the pollution is coming out of that Exxon Mobil facility. See there? Here's another example. Where's the pollution going? Now here's the whole deal. Here's all Cancer Alley. Look at it. This is one 24-hour period. That causes death. It causes disease. It causes heartbreak. And Reserve in the center of Cancer Alley now has 50 times the cancer risk of the national average.
Wow.
When the wind shifts, the pollution goes in different directions, but the prevailing winds, let me show you that one more time. Now I'm telling you, we are working hard to develop this so that you will be able to get this every day.
Thank you.
Every day. Now, the purpose of that, the information doesn't do anything by itself unless you turn it into action. If you've got neighbors and friends to whom you've been talking about this and you have not been able to strike a spark, you have not been able to get them to respond to you by saying, "Oh my God, I want to help you. What can we do? How can we organize more people?" Show them this when it comes out on a daily basis. Maybe it'll make it easier to see clearly what is going on. So here is the Dinka elastomer plant, so close to that elementary school. So this is a plant in that community with a 50 times higher cancer rate, and they want. And even after it was closed for a month during Ida, and after it was closed for a month, chloroprene and benzene and some of the other carcinogens were still found in the air right adjacent to this public school. It's not safe. It's just not safe. In March of this year, the new administration dropped the lawsuit that was intended to stop that, to make that facility reduce its toxic emissions. And in April of this year, they put in a new policy of giving them 2-year exemptions from any of the rules on air pollution. They set up an electronic mailbox. The industry just tweets them or texts them or gets in touch with them digitally and gets the 2-year exemption. That's so friendly, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you gotten a text from them? So at least 12 of these facilities right here in Cancer Alley have already received these exemptions from the pollution rules. Over 100 companies nationwide. This ethylene plant was approved for a $1.5 billion expansion, in spite of the pollution already in the air, and the finding was the social and economic benefits outweigh the environmental impacts. Now, this Formosa plant that had the ill fortune of meeting Sharon Levine, but it's not over yet. But if this thing were to be built, it would triple the already deadly concentration of carcinogens in this community. Wow. Triple. It'd be the equivalent in the greenhouse gases of 3 giant 1 gigawatt coal burning plants. And now they want to condemn 17,000 acres on the west side of the river to make room for yet another massive new industrial park. And going back to my teachings, to what I have learned over the years, especially from Bob Bullard, all over the country, this is more true for African Americans than it is for the majority population. And the data that we're collecting shows that to be true. Now, here I want to connect the climate crisis with the pollution here. In order to understand the fossil fuel industry, it's important to understand that they have 3 top markets. The first one is electricity generation, and they are losing that market. You know why? Solar is the cheapest electricity in the world. The only thing that's come down faster in price than solar electricity is utility scale batteries. And now they're putting those 2 things together, and they're pushing the fossil fuels out of slowly, but it's picking up steam. So they're losing that market. And wind also. Second biggest market is transportation. Planes, trains, and automobiles, as the old movie title says. Mostly cars. But they're beginning to see electric vehicles take over that market. And Trump's trying to stop that here, but the rest of the world, well, sales increased again for 6 months of this year. So they're better and better to drive. And anyway, China's already 55% of their new car sales are electric, and they're on the way to 80% in the next few years. So they're losing that market. So the fossil fuel industry has a doom and gloom story before Wall Street on electricity generation and transportation. But they're saying, no, we're going to make up for all of those lost profits by tripling the production of plastics and petrochemicals. 75% is plastic, and here is their projection. This is the annual production of plastics worldwide, and this is what they're projecting over the next 30 to 35 years, a tripling of the plastics. And they've already, as Lennox said, it's already in the bloodstream, it's in breast milk. They say that there's the equivalent of what a credit card consumed a week. And the microplastic particles have been associated with a heightened risk of heart attack, stroke, and death. And one study showed that the concentration of these microplastics rose by 50% in the last 10 years, and that the average person has enough microplastics to make up a plastic spoon in their brain. Now, this study was done in New Mexico. It's been extrapolated to other parts. But this is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, here's the connection. The phrase sacrifice zone has been used to describe the attitude that the fossil fuel industry and the petrochemical manufacturers have toward the people and the families who live here. We haven't yet heard the phrase sacrifice planet. But you know, in the same way that the doctors and the scientists have told the people who live here, this is unacceptable. This is medical insanity. You cannot expose your families to this burden of carcinogenic particles breathing in all the time. And the only thing is, where do you find the power? And what levers do you pull? How do you get out of it? Well, the same thing is true at the global level. The scientists who warned us about these hurricanes getting stronger and the floods getting bigger and the droughts getting worse and the fires getting out of control and the ice melting and millions of climate refugees, they were right when they warned us 30 years ago. People didn't believe them. But everything they said has turned out to be on the money. Shouldn't that make us pay a little more attention to what they're warning us about now?
Yeah.
Because we're putting another 175 million tons into that thin blue line of the sky every single day. That's what we're using as an open sewer, as I said, and we're continuing to do so, and the amount is continuing to build up. And the scientists who warned us before are saying, there is hell on earth in our future unless we can find a way to change. They warned at the World Health Organization that the number of refugees leaving the places they've always called home because they're unlivable is going to increase. You know, when the temperature gets and the humidity both get above a certain level, the body can't cool itself off. And so the areas that are considered physiologically unlivable today are very small, mostly in the Sahara Desert area, few around the Persian Gulf, tiny places. They're due to expand rapidly. The areas predicted by 2050, just 25 years from now, to be physiologically unlivable are predicted to cover vast areas of India, Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, the Philippines. I could go down the list. They warn that within 25 years we could have 1 to 2 billion people crossing international borders trying to find conditions that are livable because the areas where they live today have become sacrifice zones to the climate crisis and to the fossil fuel industry. And make no mistake, the climate crisis is a fossil fuel crisis, just as Cancer Alley is a petrochemical fossil fuel crisis. So we have to take action. You know, I was moved by your reference to the story of the fishes and the loaves. The story in all four. I've got a story in only 3 of the 4 Gospels. Best I can do. Jesus told the parable of the unfaithful servant. Servant was left by the master of a house in charge of the house while the owner went on a journey. Keep it safe, he said. And when he came back, the house had been ransacked, virtually destroyed, and his valuables had been taken. What happened? He naturally asked. And the servant had an explanation. He said, I was asleep, master. I was asleep. The point of Jesus' parable is, it's not an acceptable excuse for those of us who in this present generation have been entrusted to safeguard God's green earth. It's not acceptable for us to say, oh, we just didn't notice what was going on. We were sleeping, we were distracted, we were on our digital devices, and we went down a rabbit hole, and we just didn't pay any attention to what was going on. That is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable in American democracy for citizens to not pay attention when their neighbors, much less their family members, are threatened.
Yes.
As the people in these communities are being threatened. Now is the time to speak out and to insist that we have a significant set of changes. I'm going to close by asking you again to pray with me and for me. It's not about me, but I want to tell you a personal story. I feel as if I've failed. I've been doing this for 50 years. And it's the kind of burden when you pick it up, you can't put it back down. Sharon can tell you all about that.
Yes.
The Lord told her that she needed to retire at 30 some odd years teaching special ed to kids and devote herself to this. I believe that the communities in Cancer Alley, because of the dire situation here, due to get worse, because nothing's going to stop them except political power. Nothing will stop them. They don't listen to reason. They don't care about reason. They don't care about medical. And of course, they've got allies in the government now. I was in the bishop's inner sanctum back there waiting to come out, and I saw a news flash: mass resignations from the Centers for Disease Control. And the person in charge of respiratory illnesses said he had to resign because of the weaponization of health science. They say it's darkest before the dawn. And the good book also says the sun will rise in the morning. And I believe with all my heart that it will. And I look back at the struggles that have come before this time. The struggle to end slavery. The struggle to grant women the right to vote. The battle against Jim Crow. The battle against apartheid in South Africa. And the list goes on. And in all of those movements, don't you think there was despair at times when the advocates felt, God, pray for me, help me. It may never go the way it should. But they kept on. They held on. They stayed fighting. Now, here's the good news. We have everything we need to solve this. We have the technologies to replace what they're using all the fossil fuels for now. It may take a little more time to develop these bioplastics, but they're coming. They're coming. And if we make a commitment to stop subsidizing and giving public money to the polluters, these two international agencies, International Monetary Fund and the International Energy Agency, I bring them up not to talk about agencies, but to tell you two numbers. How much are we subsidizing? Taxpayers around the world are subsidizing $4.5 trillion a year to the fossil fuel industry. International Energy Agency says what we need to completely transform it and transition away from them is exactly that, $4.5 trillion a year. We have the money. We have the technology. We have the people. Do we have sufficient political will? Are we too distracted? Are we unfaithful servants? Can we focus? Can we connect? Not just tonight, not just this evening, but going forward. Can we find new ways to organize? Because if we can, if you can particularly, in the heart of this crisis, which is the heart of the Cancer Alley crisis and the heart of the climate crisis as well, because they are intimately connected. And the victims that are being picked upon here are a sign of things that would, if we don't act effectively, happen to people all over the world. If you can find the ways to come together on a continuing basis and find new ways to organize and to be effective and create the conditions where God can work a miracle. It's got to happen because the alternative is unthinkable and unacceptable. And to those who say that we just don't have enough political will, I tell you this, political will is a renewable resource. You watch it.
Another round of applause to our Vice President. Come over here for a moment. We appreciate you. We thank you. And I wanted to tell you, you did not fail. No. You did not fail. And the reason I can say that with such conviction is because had it not been for the work that you started, we wouldn't be standing here now. So all of these people who have committed and continue to commit to do this work is because of you. And as the song said, let the work that you've done speak for you.
I'm not done yet either.